right. Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give it a minute. We have folks filtering in, but really great to see all the people here in the room. Very excited to kick off this session, and more folks will join us as we go, we hope. But welcome to today's Smith in the World panel. I am Erin Cohn. I'm the director of the Wurtele Center for Leadership. And I'm also joined by Emily Norton as my co-moderator, who I will let introduce herself. Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, folks. I'm Emily. I am the director of the Design Thinking Initiative here at Smith and really excited for this.
All right, great. So we'd like to give a hearty welcome to all who have taken the time to join us today, including students, potential prospective Smithies, if you're here, welcome, faculty, staff, family, friends, supervisors, colleagues, and all others. Thank you for joining us to hear from these amazingly curious, engaged, and impact-driven students who we had the pleasure of working with over the past year. This is the first panel of the 2024 Smith in the World Conference series, and CLDI is the very first panel. There will be future sessions featuring students in health professions, in business, finance, and consulting, in arts, media, and communications, education, nonprofit, and social impact, government, law, and public policy, and STEM. So Smith students have been very busy and have done lots of exciting things, and this is just the tip of the iceberg today's session. Smith in the World Conference is intended to celebrate and share students' off-campus experiential learning, including internships, community service, research, or study abroad. And students will offer reflections on how these experiences have impacted and enriched their academic and professional paths.
Great. And our panelists today are going to give short presentations about their summer 2023 CLDI immersions. CLDI stands for Collaborative Leadership, Design, and Innovation, and it's a program that's co-sponsored by the Design Thinking Initiative and the Wurtele Center for Leadership. And we're really excited because we've just drawn the Conway Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center in as a partner moving forward. So CLDI connects students with embedded, fully paid summer internship experiences around the world where they have a chance to practice collaborative change making in the context of a local organization in order to help lead the advancement of socially, economically, and environmentally healthy communities. So the program partners with host organizations in countries both abroad and within the US and selects fellows to work in those organizations in teams of 2 to 4 in most cases. And we support those teams through deep learning in human-centered design and collaborative leadership prior to their internship experience, and then work with them to reflect on and share their experience out upon their return, which is what we are all here for today. And this past summer, our CLDI fellows made an impact in Costa Rica, Senegal, Hong Kong, and Pakistan. And we only have an hour together, so in order to maximize that time, we're going to let our students introduce themselves and share their screens and present back to back. So there won't be time in between presentations for audience Q&A. So we please ask that you hold your questions. And at the end, we theoretically will have some time, about 10 minutes, to open it up for questions for the whole group or for individual students. Today's session will be recorded, so we ask that audience members please keep your microphones muted, and we're ready to kick it off.
All right, great. So we are going to hand it over to our first presentation from students who worked with CLDI in Costa Rica. So one thing, students, as you're presenting, you can do, oh, Fiona's already on top of it. You're going to share your own screen so that you can advance your slides. And I'm going to just give you kind of like a, you've gone 7 minutes warning in a personal chat, just so you have a sense if you're kind of getting towards the end of your presentation time. So just the, like, transparent management there, but just know that that might be coming. So watch for it in the chat. And let's turn it over to CLDI.
All right. Well, hey, y'all. I'm Jonna, and along with Fiona and Holly, this summer, the three of us worked in Monterrey, Costa Rica with, as I mentioned, CLDI, and mostly surrounding projects that had to do with sustainability. So Monterrey is in the Cloud Forest in Costa Rica, and I think we're actually lucky enough to have our supervisor from our internship here. So hi, Katie. But yeah, it was just a really cool experience. And I'm going to start with what I did when I was in Monterrey. So the three of us all worked on different projects. I worked as a stormwater consultant, and that meant a lot of different things, like lit reviews, consulting with local families, consulting with like schools, doing analyses of soil, and like writing reports to help inform local people about how to best manage their water. And I think like the most tangible outcomes were these two flyers that are here, as along with a few other flyers that were given out to the local community about how to most appropriately manage their water based on the conditions of their land. And then I also got to do some construction projects, which I wasn't expecting, but nice to, actually get into it. So, and yeah, I was also a dual intern with the Monterrey Institute. So that was very cool. Okay, so moving on to discovery, growth, and favorite anecdote. So my favorite discovery was that was actually my host family. So I lived with a woman named Serleni and her son Sewas. But on that land, like 30 other of their family members lived. So it was just a really good time to like be such like warmly welcomed into like a very, very loving family and feel very part of the family. In terms of growth, I think I really grew a lot in independent problem solving. And I know this is a collaborative internship, but my work ended up being mostly independent unless I like pulled in other people. So it was like a great chance to learn how to adapt in an actual work setting and advocate for what I need. And favorite anecdote was just exploring the cloud forest with Fiona and Holly and all their friends that we made in Monteverde. And I'm on the Smith cross country and track team, so I had to run every morning. And every morning at 5 a.m., these two street dogs would meet me in the same exact place, and we would run 6 miles together. So that was just a little funny story. So what does this mean going forward? So I'm an environmental science major, chem minor at Smith, and I knew I was interested in environmental science in terms of water before I went to Monterrey, but I'm definitely a lot more interested afterwards and hoping to take classes at Smith and UMass about water management, specifically environmental toxicology, and possibly write a thesis about this next year. And how I grew as a collaborator and in terms of leadership and design. I learned a lot from the class that we took before going on this internship. And I think like mainly how I learned about collaboration was what collaboration looks like in the workplace and how it doesn't always need to be your coworkers that you're collaborating with. It could be with school children, asking them what they want to see on their playground, or it could be with grounds crew, it can be with educators, and you just gain a lot from bringing in members of the community that you didn't think would be stakeholders. So yeah, on to Fiona.
I'm Fiona. I was the other one of the three. I was working in so I was working in La Tilichera, which is a bartering and upcycling initiative in Cerro Plano, which is like pretty much in Monteverde. So in my work here, I prototyped hats and overalls. You can see examples. I was helping with the production of bags and pouches that were some of the products that they already sell in local shops. Experimenting with new materials, one of which was we experimented with making something out of fused plastic to see if that would make a product. Still in trial and error, maybe. But we experiment. That was an experiment that we did. I also wrote and illustrated guides for all of the products that the workshop was making, so that future like crafters in the space can learn and contribute. I also at the end of the immersion, led a bilingual sewing workshop at the cultural center, which mostly ended up being parents and children, but Holly was also there. And then occasionally organizing and translating downstairs in the shop when there were people who needed context on what was happening. How is this a non-monetary shop? How does this operate? Which was really cool to be able to explain to people how it worked. Discovery, growth, and favorite anecdote. Of course, I discovered a lot more about the design and retail process, especially like human-centered design, meeting with a shop owner, talking about their clientele and how to design a product that would sell there, which was directly linked to our human-centered design class from the spring. So I was glad that I had that experience. And so it ended up being, as you can see in the basket, those are some products that I made that went on sale before I was gone. So it was cool to see something that I made with my hands go on sale. I grew in my sewing capacity and also Spanish speaking ability while I was there. You can see a pile of prototypes. So a lot of error in the trial and error um, binary, but all of it was a great learning experience. So I learned a lot of patience there and learned how to grow from that. And so I'm also very thankful for the support and like resources that I got in the workshop so that I was able to grow. My favorite component of the whole experience was living in Monteverde and growing to feel like part of the community. That you can see a picture of Luan and Faith. Faith was my like another international student, a US student living in the house. And then I had two brothers. So being part of the community, being part of a family there, and also being spending time with both Jonna and Holly's host families as well was awesome. Moving forward, from the CLDI experience and the affirmation that I got from Sylvia in the workshop got me thinking more about design and art moving forward and thinking of somehow applying that as I apply to graduate school. My mentor Paula in Latin Literature also really stressed decentralizing quantifiable progress in like measure of work. So this is something I appreciated and I'm working to apply in my own life. And I also, like I said earlier, really enjoyed getting to know how like a non-monetary system can operate and how to employ that in my own life or like introduce that because I was really intrigued by that. And you can see some of the adventures. So you can see some work I did, the workshop, some ice cream, the dog, and a volcano.
Hi, my name is Holly, and I worked with La Huerta Comunitaria, or the community garden in Sao Plano. Next slide, please. With the community garden, I worked to create signage and educational materials to make the community garden a lot more interactive for community members. Throughout the process, I created many different drafts, and as I created more drafts, I learned that there definitely needed to be more elements that integrated Monteverde as a community, such as including local plants, as well as local species, such as I included a blue morpho butterfly, and you can sort of see the mountains in the background of the welcome sign. And on the right next to it, you can see where it stands today in the community garden. I also created interactive signs where children and other visitors to the garden can learn more about regenerative agriculture and climate resiliency. Next slide, please. Throughout my experience, I loved being able to explore and discover the cloud forest and to learn more about the local ecosystem, which I was able to integrate into my designs, and it helped me become a lot more integrated community member as well, because many of these people have so much knowledge about the ecosystem around them, and it was really great to be able to learn from everyone about their land. And I especially enjoyed collaborating with Pro Nativas, which is a local organization that focuses on planting native plants. And throughout the project, my skills as a graphic designer and as a design thinker definitely grew as I was able to rework some of the designs that I made in the beginning of my immersion to the end, and I could definitely see my growth and the outcome of those designs. And my favorite experiences were being able to spend time with my host family and the beautiful cloud forests of Monteverde. Next slide, please. And in terms of forward thinking about this immersion, with Katie and Paola, I really learned about the importance of community-based work. And after this experience, I'm seeking more opportunities that are centered around community development and education. But another thing that really surprised me was the creative process of designing. And designing the signs really brought me a lot of joy, and I really enjoyed being able to integrate creativity into my day-to-day work. And it was also a lot of fun getting to know the communities of Monteverde and Serraplano and working to create designs that the community really enjoys looking at every day. And I hope to be able to integrate the components of creativity and community development in my future career. And thank you so much for listening. We hope you all learned a lot more about Coklima and about Monteverde. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, we can do like jazz hands, or you can do, yeah, the symbol of the clapping hands, whatever you want to kind of offer some appreciation. Thank you, Team Corklima. We gave them a little bit extra time because there's 3 of them. So we wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to share their experience. And also just thank you to Katie for the continued partnership with Smith and with this program, because our students have such incredible experiences there. So awesome. Okay, so coming up next, we are going to hear from the team who went and partnered with or worked with Yen Kids Academy in Senegal. So I will turn it over to you.
Give me a second, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Let me know if you can see it. Yeah? Okay. So hi everybody. So my name is Tridia, and Kylin and I went to Senegal. So I'm Tridia, I'm a sophomore majoring quantitative econ, and I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Hi, I'm Kylin. I'm a junior studying economics. I'm born and raised in Beijing, and I have a passion for women's empowerment, human rights, and history.
Okay, so Kylin and I went to Senegal, specifically to Bab Dialaw, which is a village next to Dakar, and we were working at the Yen Kids Academy, which is a bilingual school for primary school students from 5 to 12. So part of our work, I would say like on my side, it was like teaching English to students from 5 to 11, but we also give some English classes to adults. And also we work on like multiple activities like building bins, as you can see there. And we were really like working with kids. We organized like a summer camp for the kids, because that was like the main projects. And we also did other thing, and I can let Kylin add.
Yeah, so specifically for we ran the 2 major programs of YK, which is the English Club and the YK Summer Club. So those plannings involved brainstorming with the rest of the team, budgeting for resources, allocating staff into different roles, and marketing the programs. So those bins that you see in the center photo with the white top came with a lot of work behind them.
Yeah. Okay. And now for me, one of the things that I've discovered, I would say, I think if you try to learn more about Senegal, you realize that Senegal is a Muslim country, and you might think that they don't have other religion in the country, or they have some sort of like hatred toward the other like religions. But that was actually like very false. When I arrived there, we had like they had it's a walk, but they call it La Marche de Popenguine. It's a Christian celebration where you have Christian walking like hundreds of like kilometers in order to like go to like a certain place. Like it's don't know how to describe that place. But then you had like Muslim people coming outside with water, with umbrellas to kind of push like Christians to like continue working and everything. And that was not only like the people, but also like the government was involved. They hired doctors, they hired people to like to distribute water, to distribute foods, just in order to help like Christian to like finish their celebration. Yeah. And part of like the growth process that I went through, I'll say at YK, it's really like advocating for myself and really like, you know, like if you don't feel comfortable with something, just telling people that, I don't think that's something that I'm comfortable doing. And I think maybe like at the beginning, that's you might feel like, oh, that's not a thing I can say. But at the end of the day, I was like, why not? Why not telling people that I don't feel comfortable with this and I don't feel comfortable with that? And I really like enjoy like this process too. And one of the anecdotes that I have is that I took a swimming class at Smith in like my first semester, and during the summer, I was able to swim in the Atlantic Ocean, and that was just like a very huge achievement for myself. And also like on the same beach, we stayed until 12 a.m. at night, and it was just like amazing, and I really like enjoyed being there, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, my discovery is slightly different from Tridia's, because I think this was the first time that I visited Africa, and I think I still had a stereotypical idea about what Africa looked like and what being in a developing country feels like. So I remember upon arrival, the first day, our plane landed at, I don't know, 11 p.m. or something, and we were driving through the village in the dark, and next to these roads that we're driving past are the unfinished houses, and those just look like the scariest thing to me in the world. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what have I signed myself up to? And like, how am I going to survive here for 3.5 months? But after 4 months, I found friends and family who I feel, you know, as close to as the friends and family I feel in the US. So I think it sort of taught me the lesson of never to sort of judge a book by its cover, basically. The second part of the way I grew was the way that one could communicate could come in many forms. And what I mean by this is that although I was in a country where I couldn't communicate perfectly verbally, but I slowly realized that kindness looks the same everywhere, and sometimes it works better than words. So I noticed that people are watching when I was interacting with other people, and everything I do, my attitude, my facial expressions, those like patience, those all counted, and that became a part of how I communicate. The third and my favorite detail is eating with my hands. I've never done that in my life before, or at least I could recall, but the occasion was sort of thrown upon me because it was the day before graduation ceremony and all the staff were there. And one of the women were eating with my hands, with their hands. So I decided to eat with mine as well. Did not know how to do it, totally sort of butchered it. Everyone thought it was hilarious, but it was a way that we bonded. So, do you want to?
Yeah, and also like for the future, I guess for me, even though I'm a quantitative econ student, I also like have like some projects outside of like classes. And I think like something that I really learned while like in Senegal, it was really like keeping like your stakeholder in the middle of your project and always going back to them to ask for like feedback, always trying to understand if they are satisfied with what you are doing. And I think, I don't know, it sounds like it's normal, but I don't know, like I never thought about that way until I actually like took like the IDP class with Emily and Erin. And honestly, like right now when I'm designing like my projects, I always think about like the stakeholder, and I really try to like always get feedback from them, and like it really helped me.
Yes, for me, I think it was thinking about the importance of cultural communication in my future projects, because I think likely the the likelihood is that I will be collaborating with people with very different cultural backgrounds, and I learned how important it is through when I was designing the summer curriculum and consulted one of the staff members for food logistics and arrangements. And so she was sort of leading that part of the project, even though quote unquote I was the leader for the project in general. And I think we wouldn't have been able to handle that relationship so well if I didn't have a cultural understanding of her age's significance or her role's significance in her culture. And if I were to have led her in the same way I lead, you know, someone from America or someone from my own cultural background, it would have sort of conflicted with hers. So yeah, that's what I learned.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, you two. So great to hear about your experience. And Kylin and Tridia were the very first CLDI fellows to go to Senegal and to partner with Young Kids Academy. So you were pioneers in some ways in that respect, and now have some folks who are going to go, and you can, share all your wisdom with them when they go this coming summer. So that's very exciting. Awesome. All right. So now let's move to the team that went to Hong Kong and worked with ADM Capital Foundation. I will turn it over to you. And do we have Bailey, Caroline?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I wonder if, Caroline, you can do your best with what you've got, and we'll hopefully I can follow up with Bailey afterwards.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. One
cool.
second. Let me pull up the presentation. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay. So, I was working with Bailey in Hong Kong this summer with ADMCF. So we were working in sustainability and environmental justice in Hong Kong. I am an ES&P, which is environmental science and policy major, and I have a minor in marine science. Bailey is a senior studying engineering with a concentration, but I don't remember what CESC stands for. We were working in Hong Kong. We were working on Hong Kong Island, which is the smaller island that you can see here in the bottom, and we were working in Central, which I circled in red, which is like the real heart of the city and kind of like the business district of Hong Kong. And we're working with ADMCF. I was working with the wildlife branch, and Bailey was working with the Eat Without Waste branch, with there being like 3 main branches. So for projects, I was working on around like 4 different main topics. The first one was looking at exotic pet trade. So a lot of this was going out into the field, and looking at the pet markets in Hong Kong. So I was doing research on like pet shop regulations, like violation standards, how to keep all of those things in check, and like the spread of disease and the casualties that come with pet shop like practice. And this like eventually resulted in the end goal, which was creating a forum for the public to interact and submit violations that they saw happening in these pet shops so that we could look over them for our own research. Another thing that I looked at, which took up a pretty big chunk of my summer, was looking at like more general international wildlife trade and endangered species regulation. This was like very much preliminary research, so it's kind of weird to be the expert on this field. But I was looking at this procedure called RST, which basically dictates how endangered species get the label endangered and how they can be traded internationally or how they cannot be traded internationally. And this also helped with this campaign that ADMCF did with the World Wildlife Foundation, which you can see on the top right, my supervisor, Sam, and my other supervisor, Christy, with some pictures of like very commonly trafficked wild animals. Another thing that I looked at was animal use in traditional Chinese medicine, because traditional Chinese medicine is a really, really popular form of medicine in Hong Kong, and a lot of it uses like dried seafood products or other animal products, which might conflict with international regulations. So looking at and organizing data of like what are all the traditional Chinese medicine shops in Hong Kong, like where are they, what kind of products do they sell, and like how legal are some of those products that they're selling. And then the last thing I did was actually work with China Water Risk, which is another organization that shared the office space. And I was looking at the blue economy and looking at like what kind of money is being invested into conservation, specifically dealing with the ocean and like water in general. And most of this research was like reading journals and articles, but also organizing existing information and putting them into databases or presentations for other people in the office and the public to understand. It was a really fun experience because I got to do like some in-field work with going to like the pet market and the seafood market. And then also I got to take a boat ride with the marine team when they did a fish survey, like out on the ocean. This is just some stuff that Bailey did. We worked in different branches.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't feel like you need
Okay.
to present on Bailey's projects. I'm sure Bailey's okay, but we'll follow up later.
So I think my biggest discovery, which just came with like traveling alone, was really exploring all of the transportation systems that Hong Kong has. The most common one that's used is the MTR, which is like the subway system there, which was like super fast, super clean, super on time, like very, very efficient and very great to take anytime you need to go anywhere. But also the tram system, which is like cheaper than the MTR and a lot more scenic. And then the Star Ferry, which takes you in between the two main islands, which has like a really, really nice view. The main thing that I learned, I would say, would be self-advocacy. It was really scary to like work with so many people who seem to be experts in their field. And you know, just like taking the work that they gave me, but also like learning how to communicate with them and making sure that I asked for work that felt helpful and meaningful, not only to the organization, because I'm only going to be there for a short amount of time, but also like meaningful to my experience and my time there. And then one favorite moment that I had that I really enjoyed was I got to meet some extended family in Hong Kong that I hadn't met before. And upon learning that I was an environmental science student, they took me on a tour, like this day-long tour of all these different nature reserves and wetlands in Hong Kong, which was really interesting just because I had never like been out of, I guess, the heart of the city, like the urban jungle. So it was really nice to see like all of the naturey parts. And then how did this experience influence me? Going back to like me doing preliminary research, I think it was really interesting to be referred to as the expert for things when, you know, like my supervisors felt so much more intimidating and smarter than me. So it really made me realize that like everyone has meaningful contributions, like we all really do bring something to the table, and like have different skills to contribute to better collaboration. And the other thing that I would say I learned is like it's also really difficult to design in specific boundaries. Like when I was looking at legal research and like the legal parameters around trade, it's really difficult to create change. So just kind of like being more open-minded on like when change is slow, it's not because like people didn't try, it's because you have to, you know, work with the system that you're given. And these are just a couple more pictures from things that Bailey and I did. We went to some famous restaurants, and these are some pictures here on the bottom from the boat ride that we went on, and some other things that we did. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Caroline. And it was very clear that food played an important role in your time in Hong Kong, which is super
Yeah.
unsurprising because it made me very hungry and very jealous. All right. So last but not least, we are going to hear from the team that worked with Inspiring Women remotely with this organization in Pakistan, but also traveled to Rwanda. It's complicated. They'll tell you all about it. I will turn it over to them to share their summer experience.
Hi everyone, I'll just quickly share my screen. So, hi everyone, my name is Glory and I worked with Inspiring Women with Ria, and we went to Kigali. So first of all, I want to give a background for work. So Inspiring Women is an organization in Pakistan that works to help educate girls and to empower them economically and with virtual assistance to help them excel in life, basically. So we end up working with them remotely because of the security level that was not that good in Pakistan. So the first 2 months of our internship was remotely, and then the last weeks, like the last 2 weeks, was in person in Kigali, Rwanda, where we attended a conference. So our work was majorly doing interviews. We had to interview the girls that were interested in it because Inspiring Women wanted to do a program that involved young girls and pairing them with companies for them to find jobs and internships. So we had to do a lot of interviewing also the alumni of Inspiring Women to draft a project that will highlight the before and the after Inspiring Women for those alumni. We also did a lot of research in terms of the people at the conference who were to meet, a lot of program design and also some virtual bootcamp assistance. So it was more of understanding the concept, conceptualizing things, designing, prototyping. So that's where all the classes we took during the spring came in, as well as teamwork.
Yeah, so on that note too, so we did participate in the middle here were the folks that we worked with ABDA, and we participated in this boot camp helping facilitate. First we did the interviews with the girls, and then we did help facilitate some of the activities. Can you hit the next slide? So one of the really cool projects that we did to link back to that flow chart with the prototype design and iteration was we made like Opta came to me and she's like, we have like a placement quiz about your strengths for freelancing and it's boring. So to try to make something more interesting. And so I helped to make this quiz that then it drew from a really interesting creative types thing that I discovered actually through CIX, and then related their results like the visionary with a particular job, content creation, etc. And something that's really cool about that then is later I saw on like Instagram posts that they're like introducing the visionaries, and it's like using the thing. Cool. At least to some degree, they were really, and like I was like, hey, here's this, and they're like, change it like this way. So we did the whole like back and forth, and that was awesome as well. So deliverable. Speaking of deliver, women deliver. That was the conference.
Yeah, it was called Women Deliver Conference, and it was in person in Pakistan.
Yeah. So this is the video. This is my favorite moment. I'm in this video.
So basically what was happening during the conference was meeting a lot of partners, a lot of organizations, a lot of women that are driven by the same passion, helping women empowerment, young girls education. Particularly, I'm very passionate about young girls education. So we got to meet a lot of people about that. And that was a person we're working with this Ria. So we got a chance to meet the people we're working on remotely, here they are with the CEO of Women Deliver, and it was really an awesome time meeting them in person, if I have to say. So this is basically what Women Deliver was for us, like a real experience, a conference, going out of Smith, knowing what the world looks like, meeting new people. Do you have something to add, Amelia?
Oh no, I guess just it was cool and awesome. That yeah.
Oops. Okay, let me go back. So when it comes to my discovery, I will say the conference was massive. I I never expected it to be so big. They had more than 10,000 people present, a lot of people, a lot of organizations who presented. So that was massive. That was my discovery. In terms of growth, I will say collaboration and hearing from new perspectives. And when I say collaboration is we had to work a lot remotely and we had to collaborate to make the work ready because most of the times the people we're working with will just give us tasks and they will like a result after. So Ria and I had to collaborate a lot to make things work. And there was also a lot of communication involved in terms of when we are free, what are we actually able to do? What if the expectations are too high and things like that. I think going forward, one thing I will include, or I'm already including in my journey is like getting from new perspective because before making decisions, I realized that having a lot of people listen to what you are doing and give like what I think is very precious because people have different perspective and combining all of that brings a richer project.
That yes, awesome. Cool. Same. Um, I think the thing that I was leaning on in the discovery was I picked this quote from Rupi Kaur. Like the fact that like talking to all of the part of the interviews that we did with inspiring women before we went to Kigali was we literally just met with all of these girls who like saw on Instagram that there was like a financial literacy workshop and just like went for it. And so talking to everyone about their like actual lived experience and them like trying to like make things happen for themselves in a context that was like really against that was like a really huge growth discovery moment. And then we did it a lot. We had a lot of interviews. So yes, this is us in at Mount Kigali. The other, can you go back? Or do we have time? The other picture was this is a volcano that I flew over when we were flying to Africa. Because the growth opportunity that was incredible for me too was just traveling internationally, which I've never done ever before. So that was growth. Cool.
When it comes to fun experience, I had the opportunity to go out with Ria. We went on Mount Kigali. The view was beautiful. Um, and they had literally like an arena there. So we climbed horses, we're visiting the mountain. So it was really nice meeting like my teammate Ria outside of like Smith or outside of like the work that we're doing at the organization.
Oh yeah, this was my favorite part. There was so much art at the conference. It was so cool how it integrated art and poetry too, which was like a part of the opening ceremony was like a slam poet performance and was just like, what? This is incredible. And then there was also an open mic and I did participate in the open mic. So that was my favorite thing. It was great. It was great. In the future, yeah, I think I love what you just showed, Glory, because it's working together with people and that kind of the relational aspect of collaboration is something that I'm already bringing into different projects that I have going on.
Thank you.
All right, thanks you two. These two were especially flexible in the sense that various elements of what their summer was going to entail changed over the course of the time when they signed up for CLDI and when they actually carried it out. And so it was evolving, and they were really amazing in the ways that they really kind of leaned into the flexibility that, you know, we're trying to build that, but they were especially faced with lots of change over short amounts of time. So very cool to see how all of your experience kind of made its way through to the experience that you engaged in. So all right, Emily, do you want to lead us in some Q&A and
Happily.
the time?
I will just echo that. Bravo, all of you. It's such a joy and delight to get to re-enter your experiences and hear stories that we have never heard before. So we have 10 minutes to open it up for comments or questions from the audience. Please feel free to either drop those in the chat or raise your hand and unmute, and you could ask a question to the whole cohort of students or specifically to anyone that you had curiosities that you wanted to follow up on. Just want to take a minute to give anyone time. I see the chat. Oh, we're getting lots of great jobs, everyone. I see a question from Emily.
Thank you. First of all, everyone, those were fantastic presentations. I loved hearing about what you all did. The question I always like to ask students who come back from these experiences, and some of you have kind of touched on this, is what was something about the work you did, or maybe the people you were working with, that surprised you? I think sometimes students go into work experiences expecting a certain thing or expecting it to kind of go a certain way. And I'm just wondering about something that stands out that surprised you, and anyone can jump in if something strikes you. Thank you.
I can go first. I think like I had never done an internship before, and I feel like the stereotype with interns is like they give you, you know, like the work they don't want to do, or they make you like do a coffee run, or, you know, things that are like not enjoyable that they're like passing off to you. So like I was kind of scared going into it. And it was like totally the opposite, where they were giving me like really, I guess, like big projects that they were going to do anyways. And so it felt like kind of scary, but also really cool to be given the responsibility of like an actual employee who would work there, where it's like, okay, you are in charge of like starting the research for this, writing up a draft, or like some kind of proposal to like get funding for this project. So that was really cool, of like actually doing work that felt like pretty professional.
Thank you, Caroline. Yeah, Kylin, it looks like you have something to add.
Yeah, sort of contrary to that, I think my experience taught me that, or at least demonstrated to me, that work is not the entirety of the internship experience. Like, although I was expecting very challenging work going in, but I did not even have the imagination for all the other awesome things that came with it, the community that a workplace could have, how my community sort of embraced me as a part of their family. And I think those things are things that I guess the next cohort should be excited for, and not, I guess, sort of deprioritize because you're supposed to go there and quote unquote do work. It is a part of the work and experience.
Thank you. I appreciate that because it's so true. Fiona, you have something to add.
Similarly, just kind of to what Kylin said, I was thinking about how important, how the work community was also just like a friend community, and like such a sharing and loving space. It was just like everyone who worked together were also like friends, and we like went to like a house party with a bunch of like the moms who worked at La Tiligera, and like it was all of us together, all of the host moms, all of like the three of us and all of their families, and there was karaoke, and it was a great time. And like the days when I was in the workshop with all of the like with all of the women who worked in La Tiligera and like worked in the workshop, because I I had company 2 times a week, and those were the best days because everyone would bring food and share, and we would like take breaks and have coffee for like 30 to 40 minutes in the middle of the day, and it made the day a lot easier to go because it was like 8 hours of sitting at a sewing machine. So it was like I loved the way that being with people in like a work context was also very like it was communal and like friendly and loving and and like supportive in all of the ways.
Fantastic. Thank you all. We have a question for open to everyone in the chat, which is, was there any time you had to deal with conflict resolution with your supervisors or teammates, and how did you handle that? Great question. Anyone willing to brave it? Yeah, Kylin.
I was confident in raising my hand because I think we did this, me and Tridia did this cool thing that I think helped us a lot, which is to like set up, I think, wait, Tridia, feel free to jump in, like if I'm saying anything, like recalling anything incorrectly. But we did like emergency scenario cards, and I think everyone did them, but ours was like ranged really ridiculous, like from like ridiculous things like getting kidnapped to like, oh, what if we like had a fight and we're in the same house and don't want to speak to each other? And I think, I would lean more towards the what if we have a fight side of things than the kidnapping thing. But that concept really helped in the short, sort of long run.
Yeah, I think just like on that question too, I guess like when it's come to like supervisors, I think sometimes maybe you might not feel comfortable to talk to like a particular person, but you can try to talk to someone else, because we were working with teacher, and they had like, okay, so teachers are kind of our supervisors, but they also had like supervisors. And like instead of like just going directly to like the top and going to talk to Aram, we were like kind of like talking telling our concern to like the teachers, and then the teacher helped us to like talk to someone else, and our issue got resolved. So yeah.
Are you willing to share what your strategies for if you confronted a fight when you lived together were?
Wait, I don't think we ever had a fight.
Yeah.
Because we're both pretty nice people. But we have this ritual of like eating dinner every day together, which I think was our vent session for a lot of things. And I mean, sometimes it would be the things that happen between us too, but most of the times I'd say it would be something that happened to individual one of us. And it was very important that we both felt supported by each other.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have another question for open to everyone, which is what were your work hours like, and how did you navigate work-life balance? I know we talked to many of you about this. So yes, Holly, I don't know whose hand went up first, but Holly, I saw you first, and then we'll go to Glory.
For me, some of my work, since it was on Canva, it was kind of hybrid, but when I wasn't meeting with supervisors or anyone, I was sort of on my own working on the designs. And it was really cool because I remember for a little bit, I was able to take my hotspot and work in the cloud forest, which was a really cool experience. But for me, I just really enjoyed being able to go hiking after work and just finding time to also like experience the place as well, because that's really important. Like no matter like what experience you're doing abroad, I think it's finding time to have fun and just explore the area around.
Thank you, Glory.
So for me, I would say the experience was a little bit different because I was working remotely. Ria was in the United States. I was back in Tanzania and Kigali, and the supervisors were in Pakistan. So the hours difference were practically I can remember times when I had to wake up at 4 a.m. for a meeting, and it was like midnight for Ria and like 9 a.m. for the people in Pakistan. So I would say working remotely, when you work remotely, you really need discipline, and you also need to be intentional about balancing your life with work. And I think for me, what works was setting aside some time where I know I'm not touching my computer because if I'm on my computer, I'll definitely be working on a project or just talking to the supervisors and telling them I might not be available this day and this day because it's an immersion and I'll have to be outside. But I think communication is key. I think there's also some sacrifice involved, especially when there is such a huge difference in time. But yeah.
Thank you. It looks like, Jonna, you have something to add?
Yeah, I think it was just interesting for Holly, Fiona, and I because we all had such different experiences despite like being in the same really small area. And like my work schedule, like I was planning it for myself, but I was working like 8 to 4, 8 to 3 almost every day. And so like, and Fiona was working a different schedule and Holly was working a different one. So like are all trying to figure out different work-life balances, but like with different schedules was really interesting. And I think like leaning on the two of them to like talk about like, oh, how are you doing balancing things, like was really helpful.
Great, thank you. We have one more question and one more minute. Is anyone willing to speak to, for those of you who are communicating in different languages, you're discussing some of the challenges and or joys of conveying your findings to your host organizations. Yeah, Holly.
I can go really quickly. So for the Corklima cohort, we all had to give a presentation to the community in Spanish at the end of our immersion, which that was actually a really great experience because throughout our immersion, I think all of us were sort of working in both English and Spanish. But I feel like through like the joys, you're like able to like find like another part of yourself as well. Which like that was really exciting to be able to grow those skills, both professionally and personally, but also like cultivate new relationships with like our host families, but also with community members as well.
Awesome. Oh, Tridia, one last word.
No, I think that's just for like people who are going to Senegal. So just let the kids teach you Wolof. You would think that you just need French, but you actually also need Wolof. So that's it.
Great piece of advice. Well, lots of kudos in the chat. Amazing job. Thank you all. I'll pass it to Erin for closing it out.
Excellent. All right. So this concludes today's Smith in the World panel. Thank you again to our wonderful panelists. And just, we are not just co-moderators, but we've like been working with these students since last spring, and it's been a whole year-long journey. And it's just been so amazing for both Emily and for me to kind of see how incredible your growth trajectory has been, to see how impactful this program has been on you. And so it's been really impactful on us too, to be able to work with each of you. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and for giving so much of yourself to CLDI. So lots of love from us. Thanks to the audience for all of your questions and attention and joining us on a dark and wintry afternoon. If you are in a wintry place like we are, we hope that you enjoyed this session as much as we did. And we encourage you to register for upcoming panels if you're interested in learning more about other kinds of experiences that Smith students have engaged in. One of the Emilys, if not both, are going to drop in the chat. I think Emily Beaudry maybe is going to do it. The link to register for other panels. So if you're interested in checking out more of the Smith in the World panels, please do that. But in the meantime, thank you so much. And thank you, cohort. Go forth and do more amazing things. And please don't be strangers. Let us know about what you're up to. So, all right. Bye.
Thank you all. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Ciao.